there, which are just a feature class, and we've got some buildings lurking over there. The key thing here is that we can now drive the 3D from our GIS data. So we're looking at attributes called triple and single here, and those are actually going to drive what kind of point symbol I'm going to use when I toggle it to 3D. Also, the rotational value is important, because if I'm a traffic light, I need to be able to be perfectly correct when I go to 3D. So we'll take that into account as well. So now you're actually going to see a 3D settings there. And I want to just talk about that. That's the new tab. When you get 3D in your styles tab, you're just going to see a 3D settings tab. And that lets us deal with area feature classes, line feature classes, point feature classes, image feature classes, text feature classes, everything. Just like you could do it. The only difference is now we can attribute it with 3D capabilities. So what I'm doing here is we're actually using something called a little statement expression to say if I'm looking at a triple, go and use a specific type of symbol. If I'm looking at a single, go use another type of symbol. So if I'm changing those symbols underneath in the database, what will happen is my 3D data will update to reflect that. That's very cool. Here's an example. We're just taking a translucency and a width. And in this particular case, I'm going to 3D settings. We're not doing anything. Just want to show you I can drape that data on top of it as well. 3D buildings. I'm just going to stop here just for a quick sec. Now, 3D buildings. I want to talk about this a little bit in that really what we're going to do here is we're going to extrude area feature classes. But that's not just for creating buildings. We can do all kinds of things with the extrusion now. If you want to get into really complex buildings, we can bring those in as well. But for now, I'm just going to do an extrusion, and that extrusion is actually going to be based upon the height itself. So I'm going there, you can see, boundary options, I'm going to extrude it by an attribute called max height. If you want to put textures on the side, you can do textures on the side. We can replace with 3D objects, KMZ, KML, DAE files. We can also do top and bottom textures right from the extrusion as well. In this case, we're going to say OK. So I just wanted to set the stage, and then what we want to do is bang into our 3D environment. That's it. That's as simple as that. And bang, we're into 3D. It's going to geo-reference us locally right from our other 3D view. And we're going to have a look, and we're going to start to zoom in on that. How do I get information about a line inside? How do I get information about a line in GeoMedia? I want to get information on that line. What do I do? Perfect. Thank you. Get a start. All we got to do is we're coming in here. We try to do the line styles just like we'd normally do the line styles. Double click on it. What do I get? Get the properties just like I would in GeoMedia. I can change those variables if I wanted to there. 3D symbols, same thing. I get access to those just like I would anything else. All right? Max height is what we're using in this case to actually do those. And then we're going to see, when I tilt it back, you're going to start to see all those extrusions happen for us. Okay? This is kind of considered level 1 detail. But we can actually start to also use GeoMedia as a mechanism to apply textures to the sides of the buildings as well. That can be done through attribution, can be done through expressions, anything else you want it to be. The other thing you do see here is you see these buildings that are kind of lurking in this area right there. Those guys are 3D models that we actually downloaded from the internet. We can bring those in, geo-reference those and put those in, and they'll come in through a utility that we've developed that allows us to bring those in outside of the product itself. Okay? So let's continue down. This is the first time in my life Intergraph has actually done some advertising. Look, we're advertising right on the boulevard there. First time we're doing it. But the key is I can generate that model that you see there as a truck. We've got fire hydrants. Again, all driven from the GIS. If I want those fire hydrants to be different, I can do that from the GIS itself. My God, we're advertising twice on the same street. Welcome to Intergraph, so we can do that. And that's all driven again through attribution as well. If those point symbols of cars were actually moving dynamically inside of the 2D window, they would move dynamically in the 3D window. Okay? Just going to come around here to show you what happens if we actually review the attribution of one of these guys. We can then click on that. There's my triple telling me that it's actually a double light. Did anybody catch that? But here I'm going to come up and I want to go in and I want to change this guy. So I double click on him. I can change him to triple. Boom. He'll update just like he should. And then the rotation in that particular case worked out fine for us. Here we talk about the roaming we were talking about. So now we can roam off into another area that we want to do some analysis on. So I'm just roaming across 6 degrees of freedom. You can use your keyboard at the same time to do your banking and panning if you want to. And we'll actually support a joystick as well as part of this way to navigate through this 3D window. So I'm trying to find myself inside here. We're in Honolulu, and that's Diamond Head that's sitting right there. And we see that there's a wetland sitting right in the middle of Diamond Head. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to show you more integration. So I'm going to take a look at that guy right there, and I'm just going to go, say my wetlands, go to analysis, go ahead, do a buffer zone, grab it just like I would, not traffic lights. There we go, thank you. And then off into 50 meters, do that, let it do its thing. And what's going to happen is, we get a 50-meter buffer zone just around what we had before, okay? But more integration. Everybody knows how to change colors now in GeoMedia, right? Well, it's no different. It's just the way it would have done, the way you would have done it before. That's, again, that whole idea about that learning curve is not going to be huge, right? So I'm just going to go ahead, change it out, say OK, apply it, and you'll see it update automatically for us. This is real time, just so you get an idea. And there it is. I can zoom out, go check out another area, and away we go. So there's a wetland down there. I'd like to find out what's going on in that particular one. And you'll notice the functional attribute buffer distance was added just like anything else. So that's just all around the integration side of things. You can see how tightly coupled it is, and then we'll show you some other things as we move on.